Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And for this week, we're going to take a look at some more Xbox Game Pass games. Last week, we did take a look at the top 25 best games available in Game Pass, but really, there's just so many games that comes to this service on a monthly basis, and it's easy for some to just kind of slip through the cracks. So for this week, we're going to take a look at the top 12 best hidden gems available in Game Pass as of this video. These aren't necessarily your big AAA blockbuster style of games, but they're still great games nonetheless that I would highly recommend you to check out. Now, per usual though, I do these videos about every 6 or so months, so I'm going to try not to repeat any of the games I had put on a previous Hidden Gems list, and as always, do keep in mind that this is only my opinion, so if I do forget any games that you feel deserves to be on this list, let me know in the comments below. Other than that though, let's just go and jump right into the video. And the first game I have here is Monster Sanctuary, which is a surprisingly good combination of a Metroidvania game with the popular monster catching genre. I would have never thought of this unique combination myself, but to my joy, it actually works very well. You explore and navigate a 2D world like you would with any typical Metroidvania style of game, but instead of just navigating with your own unique abilities, you also have your monsters that will actually help you navigate roadblocks as well. On top of that, you can also build your own team and initiate turn-based RPG style battles similar to what you would see in a game like, let's say, Pokemon. Again, it surprisingly works very well, and if you do like either the Metroidvania genre or monster capturing and battling style of games, then this is a game definitely worth checking out. Next up here, I have Firewatch, which is a game that, yes, can be described as a walking simulator. So this is not an action-packed game or anything like that, and it might not necessarily be for everybody per se, but I'll tell you, it's one of the best, most fascinating walking simulators out there right now. It's got a very attractive, simplistic art style that's filled with beautiful vistas, and the story is absolutely captivating with a mysterious plot. You do play as a fire lookout, hence the name of the game, and you only have communication with one person through a handheld radio, but soon enough, some weird and odd things start to happen, and you being mostly on your own will have to figure out how to unravel its mystery. Overall though, I think that if you want to play a more relaxing experience with an interesting story, then Firewatch is an easy recommend. Now, here's another unique and kind of a strange game all at the same time, being Nobody Saves the World. This is a dungeon crawling RPG with an interesting twist as you can combine the many characters and their abilities to create some silly but strong builds. As an example, if you want to play as a horse musician, well, you can do that. If you want to play as a bodybuilding dragon, well, you can do that as well. You can even play as a zombie mermaid if that's truly something that you want to be. The choice really is yours, and thanks to the many combinations in this game, the gameplay has plenty of longevity and it's always a lot of fun. The strongest aspect of this game, though, really comes down to its cooperative gameplay. If anything, Nobody Saves the World is an absolute blast to play with a friend, so if that's the type of game that you're looking for, then this is the perfect game to pick up and play. Speaking of strange, here I have Bugsnax, which might go down as the most absurd game on this list. But don't let that fool you either. There's a surprisingly really good game hidden behind the absurdity of Bugsnax. While on the surface, yes, it looks like a goofy looking game where you catch these half bug, half snacks like creatures, whether that be a flying pizza, a walking strawberry with googly eyes, or a number of any other food-related items. Again, yes, it's a goofy-looking game on the surface, but all at the same time, it's also charming, it's humorous, and dare I say, a fun game as well. There's also a rather engaging story here as you investigate Snaktooth Island and its mysteries and what happened to its inhabitants. Something strange is certainly happening here on Snaktooth Island, and as you catch a wide array of Bugsnax and feed them to the colorful grumpuses, you'll uncover its mysteries. Really though, don't sleep on this game. Bugsnax, it might have a strange premise and everything, but also a good game nonetheless. Now, visual novel type of games might not be for everybody per se. But if you're looking for good stories with well-crafted characters and plots, they often do sit at the top of their respective class, and Zero Escape Nonary Games shows exactly that, mixing in puzzle-based gameplay. Now, this does include 2 games back-to-back being 999 and then its sequel, Virtue's Last Reward, both of which are absolutely gripping games from the very get-go with highly interesting stories that does branch off depending on the choices that you make in the game. Their premise revolves around a group of people who've been kidnapped and are forced to play a game that quite literally is a life or death situation, and this makes some of your choices even more difficult knowing this. In order to proceed though, you'll have to solve various clever puzzles and escape room sequences. Sure, it's creepy and everything, but this game just oozes atmosphere, it builds a lot of tension, the story and its characters are absolutely fantastic, and they're just always very engaging games. Roguelike games have continued to gain in popularity here in recent years with plenty of good standouts, and that includes Skull the Hero Slayer. This is a fast-paced 2D action platforming game with an interesting gameplay mechanic. You play as a skeleton and your abilities and playstyle changes as you swap different skulls. It all feels and looks just absolutely great as you do as well. I just love the animations in this game and the overall pixel art, as I do think that it looks overall very, very good. But it's also important to note that it is a very challenging game as well. Skull the Hero Slayer is not for the faint of heart. It will test your skills with its fast-paced combat, but once you do get into the flow of things, this is a great game with some really cool ideas. Zoink Games has really become a standout studio with some of their most recent games such as Fee, Flipping Death, and my personal favorite being Ghost Giant. I just absolutely love the story of that game, but they did it once again here, displaying their talent with Lost in Random and its Tim Burton-inspired world. That's actually one of the best parts about this game though, and it's kind of hard not to notice its art style. It's just got this odd and charming world and characters. They're all just so intricately designed and it fits perfectly into its gothic-natured atmosphere. But then there's also its gameplay, which is an action-adventure that mixes in dice rolling and deck building. I know that all sounds weird and everything, but there's a strategy to the combat of this game, and while it's not always perfect and it does stumble from time to time, I also think that it's still fun as it's kind of its own thing. There's just so many games that kind of follows this trend and they kind of feel like something else. But I think with Lost in Random, it has a lot of heart, whether that be with its story, its characters, the world itself, and even its gameplay. Definitely check this game out if you want something just a little bit different and if you like that Tim Burton-inspired style of world. Now here I have Greedfall, which is probably the biggest game I have on this list. This is more of a AA style game that plays very similar to old school RPGs such as your old BioWare games as an example. It does have that semi-open world with plenty of smaller locations to explore and has a lengthy main quest line to follow that can take you well beyond 24 hours of gameplay. Now, at the same time, don't go in expecting it to be as polished as other big blockbuster RPGs out on the market as of this moment, but nonetheless, you're still talking about a grand adventure here where you get to customize your own character, you get to choose your own abilities, learn different spells and skills, and partake in a story that has multiple endings depending on the choices that you personally make. Your choices do absolutely have an impact in Greedfall. Again, this isn't necessarily the most polished game in the world, and visually it might not be on par with some of the bigger, more modern RPGs, but if you know what you're getting into, and for fans of old school RPGs specifically, I definitely think Greedfall is a game worth a try. Every once in a while, a puzzle game will really sink its claws into you for just how clever it is, and The Pedestrian is one of those games. It's actually kind of mind-boggling that this game doesn't get more attention than what it currently does, as it really is just one of the most creative games to release here in recent years. But in The Pedestrian, it plays as this 2D puzzle platformer in a 3D environment. You play as the stick man that you see on street signs and then kind of rearrange signs to navigate with puzzle-based platforming. It's quite cleverly done, it can be challenging, it has plenty of variation, and the platforming feels nice and smooth. To top it off, it's also a very good-looking game. I think it has about everything that you pretty much want when it comes to a puzzle game like this, and for that, it's an easy recommend. It's truly one of the better hidden gems on not just Game Pass, but just on the game market right now. Alright, so here I actually have one of my favorites being Danganronpa. This is a series that I played years ago on a PlayStation Vita, and they're actually some of my all-time favorite stories in gaming ever. So I was absolutely thrilled when they announced Danganronpa 1 and 2 was coming over to Xbox Game Pass. This is just yet another chance for more people to see how brilliant these games really are. I truly cannot describe just how crazy, twisted, and good the stories of these games are, but I will also say that they are very dark. Once again, these are visual novel style of games where a group of students have been kidnapped and locked down in a mysterious facility, and in order to escape, they'll have to kill one of the other students, the same students that they have grown close with and have befriended. That is where things get really interesting, but the catch here is that they have to get away with it. That's where the gameplay element comes in as you investigate the murder of whichever classmate died and solve the case. You have to go through this class trial type of thing and solve it as a team, and if you do solve the case, then the perpetrator will be punished in a most brutal way. As I said, it's a twisted and dark game, but also very well told with a captivating story, and it's filled with absolutely just interesting characters as you try to learn who to trust and who not to. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of twists and turns along the way, but more or less, Danganronpa is a whodunit type of game, and truly, if you do like good mystery stories, I cannot recommend these games enough. Now, some of my all-time favorite games ever comes from the top-down Zelda series. Now, there's been a lot of games that's tried to replicate that formula to really no avail, but then there's Death's Door. Now, the two do have some similarities in how you traverse its almost Metroidvania-style world. It's got various puzzles, and then, of course, also its boss fights. It does this all very well, but it also takes its combat, in my opinion, a step further. It's fluid, it's strategic, and at times, it can be challenging. It also has a world that you're going to want to explore, though at times it can be a little confusing as you don't actually have a map within this game. That's really kind of my only complaint when it comes to Death's Door, but besides that, I think that you're really kind of looking at one of the better independent games that has released in recent years. And at the number 1 spot, I have none other than Tunic, which I don't just view as one of the best hidden gems available in Game Pass, but really, I just view it as one of the best games this service has to offer, period. As some of you all might remember, years ago, Tunic was announced as an Xbox console exclusive and immediately drew a lot of attention for its Zelda-like gameplay and its minimalistic but beautiful art style. Well, now here we are in 2022, and Tunic is finally out. But the big question is, did it meet those lofty expectations that it originally set all those years ago? Well, about that. Actually, it didn't just meet those expectations, but rather it absolutely exceeded them with flying colors. Surprisingly, Tunic's not just your average Zelda-like game, but actually it's also a Souls-like. This was certainly very unexpected, but despite its cute visual art style, Tunic plays a lot like From Software games with its challenging combat and the way you traverse location to location with its quote-unquote bonfires. It doesn't hold your hand or anything like that as you solve its various puzzles and travel its Metroidvania-like world. It allows the player themselves to solve its many secrets, and Tunic right now is actually one of the better games that's released so far in 2022. Absolutely do not sleep on this game, and if you, like many other fans out there, have played Elden Ring as of recent, and if you're looking for yet another challenging but rewarding game, look no further than Tunic. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.